Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We are less than 100 subscribers from 17,000 subscribers. I can't thank each and every one of you for taking the time to watch these videos as the group, dispatching all the important data that you need to know. And right now we're seeing a major change in perspective in the market. Palantir Technologies has a pullback down about 5%, over 5%, including the after hours, compiled with an insider trading alert. Alex Karp sells a pretty hefty amount of shares. This brings uncertainty to Palantir, especially before earnings. Remember, that's happening post-market November 4th, right before the election. Volatile times, I think everybody can agree on that. In addition, you also have the general broader market that is also pulling back with some of the big tech stocks that are taking a lead right now. We're going to be talking about what we could possibly expect, and even Robinhood missing expectations for Q3. You see their stock down 11% in the after hours. What's happening across the market? If you are a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, pop it up on the screen here. What we see first is that we see Palantir insider trading alert. This comes from bar chart showing that Alex Karp has sold $254 million worth of Palantir shares. You see this here on October 29th on this date right here, selling 5.6 million shares basically at the price of $45 a piece. Now, these are basically at record highs for Palantir. This is not necessarily something I'm 100% completely surprised about, just due to the fact that you're having a lot of these insiders within management. We've seen recently over the previous few months that have been selling a decent amount of shares. There can be many different reasons on why insiders are selling. Personally, for me, it doesn't really bring a lot of uncertainty to myself. It doesn't scare me a ton because insiders sell all the time. However, how does the market react? That's the bigger question. The change in philosophy, perspective. That's where we're seeing a shift in momentum. We're seeing some pullback right now. Where Palantir will open up, you see consolidation right here. This is where support levels become incredibly handy, especially right here. Market cap now slightly under 100 billion. You see Palantir that has some consolidation, some support at about the 42. You see a reversal here triggered at the 40. That is going to be a support level, in my opinion, if this continues to see a little bit of a pullback. And what we're seeing right now is actually a shift in the media. You also have some of the other bigger funds like Cathie Wood here offloading some Palantir shares, and you're starting to see these media reports coming out here. Why are analysts forecasting a 40% drop in Palantir? You're seeing here analysts predict a steep drop for Palantir. This will happen. We've talked about this before. All of a sudden, when you see that bearish kind of switch, all the different media articles release these type of posts. But we're going to be talking about what this means, how this kind of correlates with the futures that are dipping right now, and what this means for the general market. So let's analyze this article, talking about why do analysts actually forecast a 40% drop in Palantir stock ahead of Q3 earnings. You're probably already going to know what this main article is pinpointing at. They, of course, talk about its shares climbing nearly 200% year to date. Palantir has been wonderful. We've seen AIP, multiple partnerships. We know what Palantir's done. We know that they've been incredibly successful. They've really expanded their business. Things have done very well. The big question is not what Palantir is doing in terms of a business. We know they're operating very well. Now it's what is the actual trading perspective and momentum and philosophy going to do to Palantir's markets? People are starting, and what analysts are trying to talk about here, what we're seeing in the media, is the key reason is lying in its current valuation. Now, remember, historically, we've talked about Palantir is really disconnected from its valuation. We know it's very expensive. People have been paying a very high premium, but we've always talked about that at some point, that concern is going to start to get into everybody's minds, retail, institutional investors, about Palantir's actual price and its valuation. And the fact that you have on top of that Alex Karp selling $254 million at that price of about $45, This is starting to compile together. And this is why I think we could see the year-long rally possibly having a little bit of a cool down. Now, why they say a 40% decrease? What is that actually relating to? What does that number mean ahead of quarter three earnings? They're basically just taking all the major analysts, their average price target of 27.14. That's where it's at right now. That's what they're saying indicates a potential downside of nearly 40% from its current price. And you can see this. We've seen these numbers before. And the bottom line on Palantir stock is that upcoming quarter three earnings, depending on how this situation plays out, we could get to a point where no matter how good the earnings are, even if they smash expectations, we could possibly still see a little bit of a reduction in its price, which isn't necessarily always a bad thing. Cooling off, people waiting to get in at entry points, dollar cost averaging, all these different types of ways and perspective. It all depends on how you look at the stock. And with that being said, that could be beneficial for some people out there. Everybody is basically up on Palantir right now. It's at record highs. So a little bit of coolback wouldn't necessarily be unhealthy for the stock. But what we're just pinpointing here is the major shift in perspective. Nonetheless, disconnecting from Palantir is actually operating very well. And you can see the Seeking Alpha article here talking about positioning for a beat and rise in its upcoming earnings. Some people are forecasting $720 million, exceeding guidance, with an operating margin here of $245 million, and saying despite the high valuation, we've had the additions to the S&P 500 and strong momentum suggest that Palantirs can sustain higher valuations. One good thing for Palantir is that it's always traded at a pretty high valuation, and it's been at these prices before. And look at what the company was compared to how it is today 3 years ago. That really brings a lot of things into perspective. However, earnings per share, that's at 9 cents. Revenue estimate at $703 million. So, like I said, we know their financial position's good. Balance sheet's wonderful. Their expansion is great. Everybody is going to be talking about when is the actual valuation, when is the 40x price to sales, all the numbers that we can see. When is that going to kind of kick Palantir in a little bit in the butt? And when will that connection be stronger? That could cause a little bit of a pullback depending on how the market reacts. That's only going to be a matter of time. Nobody can predict that. The only thing that's happening is now you have the S&P 500 futures are slipping here after Microsoft reports. Now, what did the reports? In the after-hours action, you have Meta Platforms that dropped 3% after missing Street's expectations here for user growth and warning that capital expenditures will rise in 2025. In addition, you have Microsoft's revenue guidance that actually disappointed investors, dragging shares down nearly 4%. So across the board, we are seeing a reduction in what the Wall Street analysts are predicting, setting the bar a little bit too high. You also have, in terms of macroeconomic data pieces, that you have the U.S. GDP here. The readings show that the economy grew at 2.8% annualized, falling short of the expectations of 3.1%. So everything is coming in slightly below what the expectations are. And big things happening tomorrow, a large indicator of what happens with inflation rates for an important gauge for the Fed is the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, the PCE data. That comes tomorrow. So we're talking about volatilities on the table. It's here. That comes for September. Talking about that, the preferred inflation indicator, they're expecting the PCE to grow by 0.2%. And on top of that, that is going to have big indications on what can be happening in terms of regarding interest rates. You also have other big tech stocks that will be releasing earnings tomorrow. Apple, Amazon, Uber, Intel slated to report. Lots of big things on the table. That's where I think we're going to see a little bit of investors sitting on the sidelines in terms of trading volume. And on top of that, you have Robinhood here. Hood, that misses street expectation shares, they tumble 11%. Now, they missed their quarter three revenue expectations here. Analyst models overlooked incentives. 27 million hit to revenue from incentives. Basically, they fell short of expectations on Wednesday, a miss that attributed to an upcoming accounting quirk related to incentives that the company said Wall Street analysts had overlooked setting its shares. So they say here an accounting quirk, something that got messed up in the accounting and the analysts prediction side of things. That's where they're seeing the disparity between what expectations are in terms of reality of what those earnings actually report. What do you guys make of all this? The shift in momentum, what we're seeing here. People, you started seeing this on X. Oh my gosh, this is the top of the market. Nobody knows. One thing, though, is we do have a lot of psychology that's playing into the market right now, especially with the election, geopolitical tensions, interest rates, inflationary data. The list goes on and on. It's an interesting time right now. However, Palantir is sitting at basically this amazing year rally. When in doubt, zoom out. That's all you got to do. Peace out. Take care. What are your thoughts down in the comments? Do you think this downside potential and correction is going to continue? Do you think we'll see a pullback or a bounce back and a reversal and more green in the market tomorrow? Take care.